never heard that word. Well, I know your father, so trust me. But anyway, it was a terrific time, and the fact that he would give a woman a chance that has never run a campaign before tells you what Jim is all about. Huh? But we did have a good team, and that team is one way or the other, still together. So anyway, thank you, Jim. We love you.
The brains behind the Moran for Congress campaign, Mame Riley and Joe Trippi. Now, when Jim was elected, he also had to have a great staff, and he had a number of folks who worked with him over the years, many of whom are here tonight, and I'm just going to run through the list real quick. And Jonathan Thisson, Tommy Scanlon, Austin Dorr, his current chief of staff, Donna Clark, John Wadsworth, Susie Warner, Gail Reuter, Peg Willingham, Alice Trong, Diane Charles, Kathy Lash, Mame Riley, Paul Reagan, and Amanda Ruff. And those are some of the staffers who, past and present, who are here to recognize Jim. And our next speaker was his chief of staff, and he's been a chief of staff three different places with Jim Moran and with Senator Webb, and now with our governor, Terry McAuliffe. Please welcome to the stage the governor's chief of staff, Jim Moran's former chief of staff, Paul Reagan, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Kerry mentioned that I've had a lot of jobs in politics, and an awful lot of jobs, and I'm currently with the governor. But the biggest break I ever got in my career was the day in April of 1996 when Mame Riley called me and said, "I'm leaving Jim's office, and I wonder if you might be interested." And I said, "My God, are you kidding?" Absolutely, because I lived in the 8th District. And I was I was a press secretary for some very good members, but this was a chance to be an AA, or a chief of staff, and I took it. And there was no way in the world I could ever imagine replacing Mame, and I couldn't, and I didn't replace Mame. But I did think that I could, in some way, keep up and try to help Jim Moran. And everybody has recited so many of the accomplishments that he had in those years. The Wilson Bridge, closing Lorton Prison, all the work he did for military retirees and the federal civil servants. But there are a couple of things that I think really bear mention tonight that haven't been mentioned. And that is, Jim Moran was one of 3 congressmen whose district was hit on 9/11. And in those days that followed, Jim Moran exhibited enormous leadership, courage, and compassion for the people in our district who perished in that accident. Susie Warner's over there, and Donna Clark, and our constituent caseworkers did amazing things in those days after 9/11 to help the families who were affected, both at the Pentagon and in New York in some cases. But Jim did something else that I think he never gets enough credit for, and it's really a story I'm not going to tell right now because it's late, but there was a real serious doubt that National Airport would ever reopen. And Jim Moran did some amazing things behind the scenes, all the way with the President of the United States. He took him on, and Jim Moran got National Airport reopened, and our economy really benefited. Now, not all of the things we worked on, we won. And, the great thing about Jim was even when you worked on an issue and you lost, it was fun. I never had so much fun in politics as when the Republicans, and Tom Davis is gone now, but these guys, they wanted to rename National Airport Ronald Reagan Airport, and Jim fought those guys so hard. And it was fun. And I had my son was 4 years old at the time. I come home from work and he couldn't understand why Congressman Moran didn't want to name the airport after our family. And I had to explain to him that he really was a good guy. But there were so many other things. You know, he did great work in the 8th District, but he didn't stop at the 8th District. He was really a congressman for our country and indeed the whole world. You know, we talked earlier, several people have mentioned it. One of the things I was proudest of in my career in working with Jim is that when the Congress considered DOMA, and I think it was 1998 or 1999, President Clinton was president. President Clinton supported it. Almost everybody supported it. There were 32 members of the House who voted no on DOMA, and Jim Moran was one of them. And he was the only congressman from the South to do so, from a southern state. So we owe him so much, and he exhibited so much courage. But I will say, and a lot of people have alluded to it tonight, you know, politics is serious business, and it's important what we do. And Jim Moran got up every day and tried to make the country and his community a better place, and he did it, as Phil and so many others have said. But, you know, politics also has to be fun. And I tell you, working with Jim Moran was the funnest 6 years of my life. So many stories have been told. You know, Joe stole my story about the signs, and I remember driving down Old Keene Mill Road one day, and I saw, after a fundraiser, Jim's, you know, number 8, the car is pulled over, and he's out in the median of Old Keene Mill Road pulling up his own signs, and I just thought it was bizarre. And you know, there are many, many, many stories about Jim Moran and food. I mean, we stored more stale food in his desk than any congressman in the country. And I tell you, one day we had some dignitaries visiting from, a country in the Mediterranean somewhere, I don't remember. And Jim Moran, he opened his desk drawer and pulled out stale dates and said, you people like dates, don't you? So anyway, there were a lot of good stories. There was a lot of fun. I tell you, my favorite one, though, my wife told me not to tell it. I'll just tell it real quickly. I came back from the office from lunch one day. This is before emails. There were 5 messages on my desk, and they were all from newspapers or radio stations or TV in Alaska, of all places. And I looked down at these things, and I thought, you know, what in the world is everybody calling me from Alaska for? So I got on the phone, and I called, and I got the whole story. And it turns out that the one and only congressman from Alaska, a guy named Don Young, was on the floor advocating strongly for steel jaw leg hold traps. And you can imagine that Jim Moran didn't believe in steel jaw leg hold traps. And he and a great congressman from California, George Miller, were giving Don Young such a hard time in this debate that Don Young made a gesture on C-SPAN that had never happened before. It involved his middle finger, and naturally that made big news in Alaska. And I went to him, and as usual, Jim thought it was funny, and I did too. So every day was a great day for us in that office. And I would just say, the governor, couldn't be here tonight, but we did issue a proclamation today, making this day Jim Moran Day, and it's long, and it recites a lot of things, but I'll just read the closing clause, and it says, whereas throughout Congressman Moran's career in the United States Congress, he has been an unwavering force for the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States of America, whose citizens have been served by his courageous leadership. Now I therefore, Terrence R. McAuliffe, do hereby recognize James Moran for his 23 years of career and bold service as a United States representative for our Commonwealth of Virginia, and I call this observance to the attention of all our citizens. So, thank you.
Jim Moran Day. That's pretty good. One of the other, we've touched upon the city, we've touched upon his colleagues, we've touched upon his staff, but the other aspect of Jim's life that is very important to him is his family. And I'd like to ask Mary Moran, Dorothy Moran, and Patrick Moran to come up and say a few words about your dad and our congressman.
Hi. I know it's really late and you guys are being troopers by staying. We just didn't want to let the night go by without saying a couple of words about our dad. I didn't know what to talk about. Susan suggested I talk about how I used to trail behind my dad for essentially my entire childhood. But it makes Dad uncomfortable because he feels like, you know, he probably shouldn't have had me trailing around behind him. But I thought about it more, and the reality is, back then, I really believed my dad was all I had in the world, and there was nowhere I would rather be than wherever you were. And I think that's part of why it's been very hard for me to share him with all of you for 40 years. I won't get too emotional. But on that note, Sunday night I had the great honor of introducing my dad at the Fairfax County Democratic dinner. And he seemed to really like it, and it was a special moment for both of us that I don't think I could recreate if I tried. But I thought, whatever your next job is going to be, whichever job you choose, and they all sound pretty terrific, I printed out the speech and I framed it, and I thought you might hang it in your new office to remind you of how proud the 4 of your children are for all that you've accomplished, and just as a reminder of how much we love you. So. Gordy?
Hi, I just want to, first of all, make a tribute to Mame Riley. She was my wonderful godmother, and she still is, and I love her dearly. And I remember we had that little saying, we went down to your pool, and I had a Sprite, and we laid back on the chair and said, "This is the life." And, and then, oh gosh, I had his name and I forgot his name. Patrick's godfather is also here. Phil, yes, Sunderland. So I just first of all want to make a tribute to them because they're wonderful people. And then moving on to my dad, when I was a little younger than I am now, I went everywhere with him. And I remember every place we stopped, he had to talk to every single person for like an hour or more. And I'm like, "Daddy, I want to go. But that got where he is now, and all these people loved him, and that's why he had to spend 5 hours talking with every single person. Now, I don't have a framed or door hanger, but I gave my father a book, a binder, covered with blue felt that I made, it was either senior or junior year in high school. And I was taking a class at Forest Technical Center, and I was in high school, and I tried so hard. I even skipped school, and it was, don't tell anybody that. It was the last election, and it was the 20th gala, and I took all these pictures, and I made these M cookies that like shaped like an M. So anyways, I gave him that book that I made for him just last weekend, and then you probably can't see because it's kind of small, but another tribute to another addition to the book, to this program tonight, to add to the book, the binder. He was a wonderful congressman, and he's going to keep doing wonderfully as whatever you choose to do, Daddy, but most of all, he was a wonderful father, and I love you so much.
I'll make a promise as I get started. Well, at least I believe that I'm the only one that took note of the 5-minute note in Carrie's email for our speeches. So I understand that it's late, and I won't keep it too long. Just to get started and kind of set the foundation for what I wanted to talk about tonight, I've gotten quite a bit into mindfulness and meditation. And if you all would just entertain me briefly for about 30 seconds and close your eyes and think about how you would feel if you were in Dad's shoes. If you're a congressman of nearly 2.5 decades and coming to the close of that career and looking forward to a new chapter. I count fast. Now I know some, and I'm not going to name them, it would be I think 11 if I did, but have gone through this exercise probably more times than the rest of us. But you know, I went, this is what I did after Mary called me earlier this week and asked me and stated, hey, we're going to talk at the JJ dinner this Friday. So after taking a deep breath and thinking, all right, what are we going to talk about here? And I reflected, and one word and one concept came to mind, and it was unconditional love. And I thought about what characterizes the relationship that I feel with my dad, and what I feel that I share with all of you as his constituents, as his fans, as his friends, as his family. And I look at that and see that unconditional love as the foundation for the selflessness, for each and every characteristic that David and then Phil, Martha and Nancy, and Dorothy and Mary have obviously touched on. But it's this foundational, powerful thing that isn't taught, it isn't adopted, it is hardly read about, but it's something that's channeled. It's something that exists within all of us, that only a special few get to really access it and feel it. And even a fewer, special, rare group have an opportunity to express it through their work. And I'm lucky enough to say that my father has been able to do that. He's been able to do that each and every day as a congressman. He's been able to do that throughout his 35 years of public service. It's something that has been paramount in his mind with every decision that he makes, every stance that he takes, every little issue that, no matter how trivial it may seem to somebody else, it's important to us, and it's important to you, and it's critical to our lives. And I think that that's something that I share with all of you, that we share together as a son and as a constituent. And for that, I thank you, Pop, and I love you. And I look forward to continuing to experience that love with you.
I want to bring up the last member of the family who will have a few words and then introduce his brother. He used to be my delegate. Now he keeps me safe at night. But he's one of my best friends. You guys welcome him, Brian Moran.
I was just getting served breakfast over there. I'm sorry, let me get my coat on. I took off my dinner jacket. That was very nice. Let's lighten it up a little bit. It is great to be back in the city of Alexandria. We get the chance to say hi to y'all, all my Alexandria Democratic friends. You look great out there. And frankly, Jim, this is a real tribute to you. I thought when I got up here there wouldn't be anybody left I was talking to other than ourselves. You still have a lot of people here. I am impressed. Y'all give yourselves a round of applause. This is true love. This is true love, and you don't have a babysitter waiting at home. True, I am here because of Jim Moran, not only tonight, but because I've had the love of this city. Kerry, and nice job, by the way, of the MC. You've really moved this program along. We appreciate that. But I graduated from the 8th grade in Natick, Massachusetts, boarded a train the very next day, took the 12-hour train ride down here to join my big brother in Washington, D.C., Alexandria, Virginia at that time, to watch the Watergate, observe the Watergate hearings. And yes, for those of you less than 30, you go Google that as well. And I stayed with Jim at Normandy Village. As it turns out, we live 3 doors down from Normandy Village now, small world. And of course, fell in love with the city. And now I have the opportunity to serve Governor McAuliffe and work with Paul as the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security. And it is Homeland Security. That's why I do know exactly what Mark Warner is doing at all times. When I mentioned earlier that I did know about his Justin Bieber comment. But so I'm thrilled and honored to be in that position, working with the governor and Paul. It's just fabulous, and it is due, frankly, because of that train ride coming down here to stay with my big brother, who we all admired so much. 7 kids, I was the youngest, still am the youngest, Jim. But I will tell you, I don't know what this job's doing to me, but in the 3 months or 4 months now, maybe even 5 months I've been in this job, and I want to shout out I was going to say I love working with law enforcement. Now firefighters have all gone. So George, tell him I gave him a shout out, would you? Nobody says to me that I met your dad today and we voted for your dad. We love your dad. So it's either this job that I'm getting older or it's Jim looking younger. I think it's Jim looking younger. You know, it does. Jim looks like he has lost the weight of the world off his shoulders. Passion, courage, empathy. Empathy, the capacity to recognize the emotions experienced by others. That's Jim Moran. When he had to hear a story of the constituent and the voiceless, the downtrodden, wasn't the special interest or the financially well-heeled, Jim would just absorb their problems. You could see his shoulders hunch. He would absorb their challenges, their difficulties. And then he would rise up and fight for them. And so many times, I know you all would have those conversations with Jim, and he'd get all frustrated and anxious about it. I said, you know, Jim, maybe you should have become a priest. And then I started thinking about, well, maybe not. No, maybe Congress is just where you needed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, our friend, our hero, our inspiration, our fathers, our brother, our wonderful friend to everyone in this 8th Congressional District. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Jim Moran.
Please sit down, please. I'm embarrassed. I really am. This has been over the top. Thank you, sweetheart. I don't own my own home. Don't even own my own car. But I feel as though I'm the wealthiest man in the world. I really do. This is my treasure. And I can't think of a more wonderful day. I never could have imagined throughout my life to be able to have known the wonderful people that I hold so dear to my heart. I couldn't have imagined representing an area that let me vote whatever way I thought was right. I mean, Fairfax County Board did a little thing last week. Frank Wolf said that in the 34 years he's been in the Congress, he's never served with anyone who voted more courageously, which made me feel wonderfully. But that's a reflection of the people who elected me and the fact that I am blessed to represent such a thoughtful, caring, empathetic, compassionate, well-informed, politically engaged constituency. I'm blessed to have the support of the Democratic Party in Alexandria and Arlington, Fairfax, and Falls Church. I don't take that for granted. And I'm very proud to be a Democrat. I'm also proud to be a liberal, to be an idealist. There's so many things that I would like to say about the people who have stood up here and such nice things about me, and so many things that I'd like to say about the people who have not had that opportunity to come up, but who I would also like to convey how much they mean to me. I can't, imagine life being this good, to have such loving friends that I feel such deep love for. So I'm not going to get into talking about any individuals because all of you have meant so much, and I'm probably going to cry, and I'd go on too long, and you've been much too patient listening to these things that, as I say, they mean so much to me, but it's also embarrassing. I feel very self-conscious up here. I guess in the end I'd like to be known as somebody that defended the underdog, stood up to the bullies, who tried to make this a little better and more peaceful and more sustainable world from my grandchildren's grandchildren. I mean, in the end of all the things that we acquire or titles we might achieve, ultimately we're ancestors of the future, and we've got to do what we can to pass on to the people in this who make up this fragile world that we have to send a message to the world that we'll never see, that we cared, that people are good, that love matters, that everyone is precious, and that it's worth caring about people. It's worth being part of a world that wants to make this a better world. And I have just been blessed to have friends, very close friends and family who share my values and really have inspired my vision. And I feel as though it's yours, it's theirs, and I've just been kind of a messenger. But God, am I proud of the people whose friendships I know are real and genuine and eternal. And I'm so proud of my family. I'm so proud of the people that I've worked with. And I'm a product of all of those wonderful people, of you. And I thank you for that.
Jim Moran, ladies and gentlemen, our congressman. To close us out tonight, I want to bring up Clarence Tong, the chairman of the Alexandria Democratic Committee, for a few parting remarks. And again, Jim, congratulations, but more importantly, thank you for being our congressman. Thank you for being our dedicated public servant. But thank you for being our friend. Clarence.
All right, so we actually have a very special award that we wanted to provide Congressman Moran, so please don't leave us. And to help me present this is our two very special people. Margot Horner is a longtime friend of Congressman Moran and the 8th District Chair, and our neighbor and friend, Kip Malnoski, Chair of the Arlington County Democratic Committee. So back in March, well, Lady C thought that the congressman was going to be joining us at our meeting, but it got snowed out, you know, like one of the many storms that we had this winter. But to get ready for it, we actually decided to honor the congressman with a special resolution. We passed it through the Alexandria Democratic Committee. This particular resolution, you guys want to hold this? Was passed through the Arlington County Democratic Committee, and then it was also passed through the Democratic Party of Virginia's meeting in Richmond. So this is the Moran resolution, everybody, and we wanted to invite Congressman Moran to come receive this award with us. Thank you so much.
Clarence, thank you. Margot, sweetheart. Oh.
We love you, Jim.
You guys are unbelievable. Go home. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
for your
wonderful.
service.
Did
Thank
you get
you
a
for
picture
fighting
of
for
this?
us. Oh, yeah,
This is just so nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been down to see many. Come on.
I just wanted to, as we close, thank the Alexandria Democratic Committee's Jefferson Jackson Dinner Planning Committee this year. The chair, Holly Wallace. This event couldn't have happened, couldn't have been so magnificent without her leadership. And also the other members of the JJ Planning Committee, Willie Bailey, Carrie Donnelly, Melissa Feld, Susan Kellum, Kathy McMurtry, Jack Powers, Matthew Stenrud, Alice Tong, and Board Walker. Thanks so much for coming out this night. Had a great time. And as the Congressman said, please go home.